So our project today is to replace the clutch on my 2015 CRF 250L. Bike has about 2,000 miles on it. Had an issue about 2 weeks ago when I was riding, got stuck in a big mud puddle that was iced over, and I like having my clutch adjusted far out, and I think because of I believe they're called jogger springs on here, on this clutch, that you don't get that secure positive engagement with them, and I think because of that I burned up the clutch. Thankfully, again, with how far out I keep my clutch adjusted, after we got out of the puddle, we were able to make an adjustment to my lever and then be able to ride the bike. Actually, I rode it last weekend, after this happened, and it was all right. But again, I want to get those springs out of there and have a better positive engagement. So anyway, we're going to do this project here today. What you're going to need for it is, depending on your mileage and what you're going to do, you can either just replace the one clutch, remove those jogger springs and replace the clutch. And the last clutch in this is actually a smaller clutch, a smaller diameter on it. Right here it's thinner. But anyway, I'm going to do all five. I just bought the Honda clutches. It was the cheapest option here. I think it was about $50 for all the clutches, compared to some of the kits that were like 60 to 70. Not that it was a huge savings, but anyway. So Honda part number is 22201-KYJ-902. And then again, you'll need 5 of those, or 1 depending on how you're doing it. And then I also got the gasket for the side case just in case I need it. I have it, so I'm going to put it on. I didn't want to take the chance. I know some people say they come off and they're decent, but my thought process is it's only a couple bucks and I just assume buy the new one and not have an issue. So part number for this is 11394-KYJ900. So we're going to go through, yank this off. You're going to have to drain the oil and the coolant out of it to do this job. Overall, it's not a very difficult job. Tools you're going to need. You're going to need a 5mm Allen key, a 12mm socket to drain the oil, 8mm to take off the bolts for the case, a 6mm for the hose clamp, and I am not positive inside the bolts for the clutch itself to remove the springs is either a 10 or an 8. I think it's a 10, but I'm not positive. Again, I haven't done this yet. And then I actually think I'm going to have to grab it here. I'm going to need a flat screwdriver to be able to pop the brake lever off, or the pedal, I should say. So anyway, that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to get the oil and coolant drained, and then we'll take you through how to do this procedure. Alright, so I got the oil draining. Now we're going to do the coolant. You got these bolts here on the side of the engine where your water pump is. You got the 3 bolts, so actually there's 4 of them behind there. You're going to do this bottom one is the one you need to loosen. This is where your coolant will come out of. We're going to break that loose. Before I do that, I have it broke loose, but I'm not going to loosen it all the way yet. Before I take it out, I'm going to loosen the radiator cap so it'll drain, which is on the left side of the bike. So we'll get this drained out, and then after that's done, then we'll go ahead and start removing the bolts to take the cover off. Well, actually I'll go to the brake lever and we'll do that. So I'll don't need to let you guys sit here and watch this. Make sure when you're doing this there is a washer on the bottom of this, a brass washer. So watch that so you don't lose that while you're doing this. And anyway, I'll bring you back on when we're done draining this, which I guess is just about done. Alright, put that back in. Just start it. Then I'm going to go ahead and get our 6mm. And we're going to take off this hose clamp. I'm sure we'll have more come out of this, probably. Maybe not, hopefully not with draining it, but alright, we're good. Nothing's coming out of there. I'm gonna set this up on the bench because otherwise I'm gonna kick it and dump it. So, alright. So now, like I was saying before, we need to go through and we got to take this cover off. We're gonna have to take our clutch or our brake lever and everything off. Alright, so we got everything drained. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to start removing the side, I guess, rub guard, if you will, here. And then our brake lever here. And we'll get that stuff off and then pull out the whole entire thing. So let's start. We're going to need our 5mm hex key, Allen key. Take out these 2 screws. Take that off. And then we're going to have, there's on the back side here, sorry about the camera angle, but there's a little pin to pull out back here that will allow you, it's like a cotter pin, or a, come on, wire out of me. There we go. You got that little pin back there you got to pull out that'll allow the lever to slide out. And alright, here's what I did, guys. Instead of fighting with this thing, I decided to go ahead and just remove the 2 6mm Allen head that hold the master cylinder on here. So I removed that, got that out of the way, and was able to then pull the lever out without an issue. So I've decided that was easier than trying to work on getting that clip out and messing it up. It was just 2 bolts and popped it. You do have the 2 springs that are on there that also are connected to the brake pedal that you'll have to put back on. So anyway. Alright guys, so I got off of my little stool that I was sitting on to be able to get in here and make sure you guys can see this better. We pull up on this, we're gonna get that out of the way. There's a 10mm there, so we'll go ahead and pull that 10 out, take this bracket off and the bolt, drop them in there, and then like I was saying, we got a lot of 8mm bolts around this thing. All around the case. You got this bolt you got to take out to take off the oiling tube, the tube for the oil pass through. Again, down through the case, all along the perimeter, we got all these bolts we got to take out. I'm going to go ahead and get that stuff out, and then I'll show you what it looks like inside when we're taking that case off. Alright guys, we got all the bolts out. I left this one in here. This is the only one that was a different size on this round of case. And then also the 2 that go into your oiler tube, that they're little short ones. Besides that, everything else going on here is the same size bolts, so don't really have to worry about keeping track of them. You know, obviously don't lose them, but where which ones go, everything except for this upper one is the same. This upper one right here is the same size. So also Honda is usually very good, and I started cracking it. I'm gonna have to I'll show you this real quick. We got to take the clutch lever off, so we should be able to just move that out of the way and then pull on this cable. Sorry, I'm holding my camera, and that will just pop out. So that's free. But Honda also, to pop the case, and I already started popping this, they're very good about giving you places to pry normally. So I was able to just go in here and pry against the frame. And there's another one right down in here, and as you can see, it's ready to come off. So I guess I'll keep you guys here. And there's the inside of the case, and there's the clutch. So now all we got to do for this project is we're going to come in here and we got to remove these 5 bolts, which I was right, they are 10 millimeters, and the springs are in there. So we're going to get those removed. And I'll get that out. We'll pull the clutch out. I'll show you all that after I get the cover off here. Just give me a minute. Okay, so I got my springs off, bolts off. So now we just simply pull this cover off, or your outer clutch basket. Actually, this would be your pressure plate. This is your outer clutch basket. This is your inner clutch basket. So we got our discs there. And yeah, I wore them down pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and change this out. We also have, let's see if we can get in here, these jogger springs right here. Let me get my screwdriver. So these little springs right here, if I can get them out. There's 2 of them. And this is it's a wavy spring that just, I guess it's supposed to give you a little cushion on your clutch. I'm going to eliminate them because I really don't like the clutch feel in this bike. So I'm going to eliminate them like everybody talks about. I am looking, I was told, yeah, you can see this if you look, and again, actually, that's the one I burned up. So if that's my metal disc. There's supposed to be a small, from what oh, there it is. I didn't pull it out. So that one's still in there. So instead, all right, so I see how it is. Those little springs go on the inside of this instead of having a full disc in there. So there we go. You can see the size between the 2 of these is a big difference, and that's so a lot of people are just changing this out. So my clutches themselves don't look terrible. I mean, they're definitely worn, and like I said, I don't like the engagement, so I wanted to get the little spring out. These, again, there's 2 of them, but I'm gonna go ahead and get my stuff together. I do have my new clutches soaking, so that you can put them in. I've heard both ways, just as long as you oil them up, you're fine. But I figured, you know, what's the big deal? I'm going to go ahead and take them out while I'm doing this, let them soak, while I got to take everything apart. So the only other thing while you're in here, and you got the case apart, right there is a screen for your oil runs through. So it doesn't hurt to pull that thing out. I don't know how easy this comes out. I'll grab a pair of needle nose, pull that out, and make sure it's clean and nothing in it. So anyway, let me get everything together here, and we'll throw this back together. All right. So I got everything out. I got the clutch discs in here with the metal discs. So again, these are the old. They are worn a bit. They're not worn out completely, but again, I was getting slippage. This is the 5th disc, as you can see. Definitely different size here. Easier if I lift both of these up. Clearly, you got your different size here between the 2 of them. So that's the last one that went in, or came out, I guess you should say, or the first that goes in on the clutch baskets. And these springs, these little washers here, and the one is flat, and then the other one is actually tapered. It has a spring to it, so that it has to be crushed. And these were sitting in between these. So the other clutch, so you had this clutch pushing against, well, actually wouldn't have been the clutch, it would have been one of your metal plates would have been pushing in there. So I'm eliminating that. We're going to go with 5 standard clutches. When you assemble it, it's friction, metal, friction, metal, friction, metal, friction, metal, friction, metal, all the way through. The last one will be a friction. And you just slide them in, and you got your teeth on the friction ones that line up with your outer clutch basket, and your teeth on your metal that line up with your inner clutch basket. And when the clutch is released and everything is pushed in with the springs that we took out, it causes it to be a unit and transfer the power between the inner and the outer clutch basket. Anyhow, so I'm gonna go ahead, we're gonna take these, stack them up, put them in the bike here, and then throw everything together and put oil back in this thing, and this project will be done. So again, I won't put the plate on, but it's just simply, you're sticking it in. Sorry about that, let me hold these other ones in my other hand. You're just lining it up with your teeth on the outside clutch basket. It slides back in, and you're going to put a metal disc in, and that lines up with your inners. This is a pain with the camera, and you'll just do that until you're out of discs. So you just keep alternating and getting them in there. Again, I did soak mine. I hear both ways on this, that you don't have to. I will say, I've rebuilt transmissions in cars, and on those, you know, you soak those also. So it doesn't hurt. I mean, why not let them soak and just make sure you're doing it right? It's not that big of an extra step. You already got the oil out of the bike. You're gonna need to put oil in it and everything. So anyhow, so I'll do this, and then we'll put the cover on and start putting this together. All right, like I said, I got all the discs in, and then we're going to go ahead and put the cover back on the pressure plate, and we're just going to line that up with the bolt holes that go through, put that on, and then you're going to go ahead and you got your springs. Your springs go in, and there's 5 of these, and then your, oops, wrong bolt. You're going to have your 10 millimeters we took out with the big washer on the head of them. That focuses. We're going to go ahead and just put those in. We're going to do this by hand so we don't strip anything out or cross thread anything, but you'll just go ahead, push in on this bolt a little bit, get it to start, which it did, and do all 5 of them, and we'll torque them up. And after that, we'll go ahead, get the case cleaned up and put it back on. Alright, so I got the case here. I already started taking the gasket off. For the most part, it peeled right off, but we do have a couple of areas here where it was not releasing. So I'm going to have to go through and we'll get that scraped off. You know, when you're done with this, you want to make sure your case is clean inside so you're not getting any dirt or debris inside the engine. But go ahead, scrape this. Also, there's a couple dowels pins in this case. We got the one here that stayed in. Then there's also one in this bolt hole here that's still in my engine, and I don't think there's another one on this. It doesn't look like it, but anyway, so it looks like it's just those 2. But you want to be careful, make sure that you don't lose those or misplace them, or they fell somewhere, that when you're putting it back together you have those. So I'll go ahead, I'll get this cleaned up and get the new gasket on it, and we'll get everything else wrapped up on the bike and put in place. All right. So I got my case all cleaned up. I ended up having to get a razor blade out for a couple spots. Also got a pair of needle nose out, and got the screen that's at the bottom of the case out. This is tapered, and that's how it locks it in there, so it's just pressed in. So I did get that out and made sure it was clean. Again, that's just down here at the bottom of the engine, so it just slips in there and pops in place, and that's it. Also, I just want to note, earlier when I was taking the bolts out for the pipe that runs from here to the top of the case, I did call it an oil pipe, and it is not. I was thinking that oil was running through it for whatever reason, but it's actually where your coolant runs through. So it's a coolant pipe, not oil. So just want to make that clear. So otherwise, we're ready to go. I got the case all cleaned up. Everything's wiped off, ready to go, and we're gonna slide this case on. I did move both pins, dowel pins, into the case itself so that it'll hold my gasket in place when I'm putting it on there. And we'll slip that in, put our 8 millimeters in. Again, the only bolt hole or bolt that is different on this, a different length, is the one over here on the top, on the bike. It's going to be the top right corner of the water pump. That's the long bolt. All the other bolts on the case are the same size. And then you got your two shorter bolts that go in the water pipe that go from the top of the case here to the cylinder. So I'm going to go ahead and take this over to the bike and slip it on and put the bolts in. Oh, sorry, thought of one other thing I just wanted to tell you guys. So your clutch lever right here, you can see it moving down there. That spring at the very bottom, on mine when I was pulling it out or bringing it over here, I don't know what, the lever here to engage the clutch actually slipped and slid out of the case a little bit because it just sits in there, and the spring came undone. So there's just a hole at the very bottom of that, so you just got to line it back up, stick it in, and then the bottom of the spring sits in this little groove right here. So it's no big deal, but if for some reason that comes apart for you, you just got to pull it out, put the spring on it, slide it back in, and then get the bottom of the spring to go in that little groove. We got the case on, clutch cable hooked up, everything in, tightened, and ready to go. Again, this pipe is a coolant pipe, not an oil pipe. I apologize about that. One thing I want to point out to make it easier to get the case put on, I stuck the radiator hose up here over the header just to keep it out of my way, and then I also took the brake switch and tucked it up in there to keep it out of the way. And then same with the bracket for the clutch cable. Got that up on top of the motor. So basically all we got left now is we're going to put the radiator hose back on, tighten it down, reinstall our bracket for our brake switch and our brake switch, reinstall our brake lever connecting both of the springs. I'm going to tighten down. We'll put the master cylinder back on, the little plastic cover that goes over the frame here, fill it with oil, and with antifreeze, top all the fluids back off again, run it, make sure we're all full, and then adjust the clutch cable, and we should be in good shape. Alright, so we're all done. We got the fluids topped off. Everything's good. Did check to make sure it was working. I didn't take it for a ride yet, but while I had it on the stand and had it running, you know, I put it in gear and held the brake and then made sure it was engaging properly and everything. So everything feels good. Still got to take it for a ride, see how it rides. But anyway, that's how you do the clutch job on this. It's a pretty simple job overall. Anyway, I hope this video helps you out, and have a good day.